Hi, I'm Gabriela. I'm a marketing manager who just closed on my first house, my dream, my savings, my name on the deed. But the day I got my keys, my parents showed up with my sister's entire family and a moving truck. If you've ever felt like your family treats your achievements as their property, hit that subscribe button, because by the end of this story, you'll see exactly how I reclaimed my boundaries. I was 32 years old when I bought my house. 32. That might not sound like a big deal to some people, but to me, it was everything. I'd worked 2 jobs for 7 years, marketing manager by day, freelance copywriter by night. I'd skipped vacations, driven the same beat-up Honda Civic since college, and said no to countless brunches and girls' trips because every extra dollar went into my down payment fund. When I finally got the call from my realtor that my offer was accepted, I cried in my car for 20 minutes. This wasn't just a house. It was proof that I'd done it, on my own, without anyone's help, without anyone's permission. The house was a 3-bedroom craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. Hardwood floors, a big kitchen with updated appliances, and, my favorite part, a sun-drenched reading nook in the living room. I'd already planned where every piece of furniture would go. I'd picked out paint colors. I'd imagined myself curled up in that nook with a book and a cup of coffee on Sunday mornings in my house that I bought with my money. I didn't tell my parents I was house hunting until after I'd already made an offer. Not because I was hiding it exactly, but because every time I mentioned saving for a house, my mom would say something like, "Well, when you finally settle down and get married, you'll need something bigger anyway." Or my dad would launch into a lecture about interest rates and property taxes, as if I hadn't already done months of research. It was easier to just keep it to myself. When I did finally tell them I'd bought a place, they seemed happy, excited even. My mom asked a lot of questions. How many bedrooms? Was there a yard? What was the school district like? I thought she was just being interested, supportive. I had no idea this house would become the battleground where I'd finally say no. The closing was on a Friday. I took the afternoon off work, signed what felt like 1,000 documents, and walked out of that office with a set of keys that weighed almost nothing but felt like the heaviest, most important thing I'd ever held. I drove straight to the house, parked in the driveway, my driveway, and just sat there for a minute, staring at the front door. This was mine. All mine. I walked through every room slowly, running my hands along the countertops, opening and closing cabinets, standing in the middle of the empty living room and just spinning in a circle. I took about 50 photos to send to my friends. I FaceTimed my best friend Valentina, who screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Gabby, oh my God, it's perfect! I'm so proud of you!" "I know," I said, laughing. "I can't believe this is real." "You deserve this. You worked your ass off." I spent that night measuring rooms and sketching furniture layouts in my notebook. I ordered pizza and ate it sitting on the floor because I didn't have furniture yet. It was one of the best nights of my life. Saturday morning, I woke up at 7 even though I didn't have to. I was too excited to sleep. I drove back to the house with my first load of boxes, kitchen stuff mostly. I wanted to start unpacking right away, start making it feel like home. I pulled into the driveway and immediately noticed a moving truck parked on the street in front of my house. My stomach did a weird flip. Maybe it was for a neighbor? But then I saw my parents' car, and my sister Sarah's minivan. And then I saw them. All of them. My mom, my dad, Sara, her husband Antonio, and their 3 kids, ages 8, 5, and 3. They were standing on my front lawn. The back of the moving truck was open, and there were boxes. Furniture, a kid's bike. I got out of my car slowly, my brain trying to catch up with what I was seeing. "Surprise!" my mom called out, waving. I walked toward them, my keys clutched in my hand. What's going on?" "We're helping Sara move in," my mom said brightly, like this was the most normal thing in the world. I blinked. "Move in? Move in where?" My dad stepped forward, hands in his pockets. "Here, obviously. We figured we'd surprise you and get Sara settled in this weekend." The world tilted. "I'm sorry. What?" Sara came over, her youngest on her hip. She looked tired, like she always did these days. "Gabby, thank you so much for this. You have no idea what a relief it is. Our lease is up next week and we've been so stressed about finding a place. Wait. I held up my hand. I never said you could move in here. The smile on my mom's face faltered. What do you mean? We talked about this. No, I said, my voice rising. We absolutely did not talk about this. My dad frowned. Gabriela, your sister needs help. She has 3 children. You just bought a 3-bedroom house. That I'm living in, I interrupted. Alone. By myself. Because it's my house. My mom's expression shifted from confusion to something harder. Disapproval. We're so glad you have enough space. Sarah's lease is ending and she needs somewhere to stay while they look for something more permanent. More permanent? I repeated. How long were you planning for them to stay? Just a few months, Sara said quickly. 6 months, tops. We just need time to save up for a down payment. No. The word came out sharper than I intended. No, this isn't happening. Antonio, who'd been quiet until now, crossed his arms. Gabby, come on, we're family. Exactly, my dad said. Family helps each other. You didn't consult us before buying this house. That stopped me cold. I didn't consult you? Family decisions require family input, he said, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. This affects all of us. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. This is my house. I saved for 7 years. I worked 2 jobs. I didn't ask for anyone's money or anyone's help. And that's the problem, my mom cut in. You've always been so independent, so determined to do everything yourself. But family is supposed to stick together. We're supposed to take care of each other. I looked at Sara. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Did you know about this? I asked her. Did you know they were planning this? She shifted the toddler to her other hip. Mom said you wouldn't mind. She said you'd want to help. She said? My voice was getting louder now. Did anyone think to actually ask me? Don't raise your voice, my dad warned. I'll raise my voice in my own house. That's exactly the attitude we're worried about, my mom said, her tone icy now. How selfish. Sara has 3 kids. You're single. You don't need all this space. The word selfish hit me like a slap. I'd heard it before, growing up. Anytime I wanted something for myself. Anytime I said no to babysitting so I could study. Anytime I prioritized my own goals over what my family wanted from me. I'm not being selfish, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm being an adult who bought her own house. Sara finally spoke up, and her voice had an edge to it. I always knew you were the selfish one. Mom and Dad sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you repay them? Something in me cracked. Sacrificed for me? Sara, they paid for your wedding. They watch your kids 3 times a week. They helped with your down payment on your last apartment. That's enough, my dad said sharply. He was using his disappointed father voice, the one that used to make me shrink when I was younger. We're disappointed in who you've become, Gabriela. The 8-year-old started crying. The noise made everything feel more chaotic, more wrong. I think you all need to leave, I said quietly. My mom's eyes went wide. Leave? Gabriela Maria Rodriguez, we are your parents. And this is my house. Please leave. They stared at me like I'd grown a second head. For a moment, nobody moved. Then my dad shook his head slowly, like I was a lost cause, and turned toward the moving truck. Load it back up, he said to Antonio. They left without another word. My mom looked back once, her face a mixture of hurt and fury. Sara was crying. The kids were confused, asking questions nobody answered. I stood in my driveway until they were gone. Then I went inside, locked the door, and slid down to sit on the floor with my back against it. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Texts from my mom. Then my dad. Then Sara. I didn't read them. I just watched the notifications pile up until my screen went dark. Have you ever been made to feel selfish for setting boundaries? Drop a comment. I read every single one. By Sunday morning, I'd been removed from the family group chat. I noticed it when I went to send my dad a calm, rational text explaining my position, only to realize I no longer had access to the thread we'd been using for years to coordinate family dinners, share photos of the kids, and plan holidays. I stared at my phone, a weird, hollow feeling in my chest. They'd cut me out, just like that. The texts from my mom had stopped, but they'd been replaced by calls from my Aunt Lorena, my cousin Miguel, even my grandmother. I didn't answer any of them. I could guess what they were calling about. By Sunday afternoon, I had 17 missed calls. Finally, I listened to one voicemail. It was from Lorena. "Mija, your mother is heartbroken. I don't know what happened, but family is family. You need to apologize and work this out. Call me back." Apologize? For what? For not letting people move into my house without asking me first? I blocked out the noise and spent the rest of the weekend unpacking. I hung curtains, I assembled furniture. I made my bedroom exactly how I wanted it. White duvet, plants on the nightstand, string lights above the bed. I set up the reading nook with my favorite chair and a small bookshelf. Every time I looked around, I felt this mix of pride and grief. This was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. Instead, I felt like I was mourning something. Monday morning, I went back to work. My coworker, James, asked how the move went. "It was complicated," I said. He didn't push, thankfully. During my lunch break, I checked Facebook, something I rarely did, and immediately wished I hadn't. Sara had posted a vague status. "Some people forget where they came from," praying for my sister's heart to soften. The comments were full of heart emojis and prayers sent, and family is everything. People I'd known my whole life, siding with her without even knowing the full story. Or maybe they did know and they thought I was wrong too. I closed the app and didn't open it again. That night, I called Valentina. "They wanted me to feel guilty for owning my own house," I told her, pacing around my empty living room. And for a moment, I did. I felt like the worst person in the world. "You're not," Valentina said firmly. "Gabi, you worked your ass off for this. They had no right to make plans for your house without even asking you. They said I didn't consult them before buying it, like I needed their permission. You're 32 years old." "I know." I stopped pacing and sank into my reading chair. But they made me feel like I was being a bad daughter, a bad sister. "You're not. You're setting a boundary. That's healthy." "Then why does it feel so awful?" Valentina was quiet for a moment. "Because they're making you pay for it. That's what manipulative people do. They punish you for saying no." Her words settled over me like a weighted blanket. Heavy, but somehow comforting. After we hung up, I sat in my reading nook and looked around my new house. The house I'd earned. The house that was supposed to represent freedom and independence and all the years of hard work finally paying off. Instead, it felt like a crime scene. I got up and walked to my bedroom where I'd dumped the contents of my purse earlier. At the bottom of the pile was my old keychain, the one I'd used at my first apartment, back when I lived with 2 roommates and survived on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I'd kept the key even after I moved out, some sentimental part of me not ready to let it go. I picked it up now, running my thumb over the worn metal. That apartment had been tiny and cramped, and the heating never worked right, but it had been the first place that was mine. I remembered sitting on the floor of that apartment, budgeting down to the last dollar, dreaming about someday having my own house. And now I did. I'd done it. I attached the old key to my new keychain right next to my house keys. A reminder. I earned this. Nobody gave me this. The next few days were quiet in a way that felt wrong. No texts from my parents. No calls from Sara. Just silence, which was somehow worse than the fighting. But then, on Thursday night, I got an email. From my dad. The subject line was blank. I opened it with shaking hands. "Gabriela, your mother and I have spent a lot of time discussing your behavior this past weekend, and we need you to understand how deeply you've hurt this family. We raised you to be generous, to think of others, to put family first. Clearly, we failed. Sara is struggling. She has 3 children to feed and a husband who works 12-hour shifts. They needed help, and you turned your back on them. You had the resources to help, and you chose not to. That is not the daughter we raised. We're giving you time to reconsider your decision. But until you apologize to your sister and make this right, we cannot have a relationship with you. You owe us an explanation. You owe us respect. We're waiting for your call. Dad, I read it 3 times. Each time, my hands shook harder. They were disowning me. Not officially, maybe, but effectively. Unless I bent to their will, I was out. I didn't cry. I was too angry to cry. I forwarded the email to Valentina with a single message. Is this normal? She called me 2 minutes later. No, Gabby, this is emotional manipulation. This is not normal. They're acting like I committed some unforgivable sin. You set a boundary. To people who've never heard you say no before, a boundary feels like an attack. I thought about that. Had I ever really said no to my family before? I'd always been the one who showed up early to help set up parties, the one who babysat at the last minute, the one who loaned money I never got back, the one who smiled and nodded and swallowed my own needs because family comes first. And now, the one time I said no to something big, something that would completely upend my life, they were punishing me for it. Val, I said slowly, why did my mom ask so many questions about the house? What do you mean? When I told her I'd bought it, she asked about the number of bedrooms, the school district, whether there was a yard. She asked really specific questions. There was a pause. Gabby, how long ago did you tell them? Like 6 months ago, when I first started seriously looking. And when did Sarah's lease end? My stomach dropped. Next week. She said their lease was ending next week. So your mom knew 6 months ago that Sara would need housing right around the time you were buying. The pieces started clicking together in my head, one after another, each one making me feel sicker. Oh my God, I whispered. What? They didn't just hope Sara could move in. They planned it. I hung up with Valentina and immediately opened my email. I searched for any correspondence with my mom from the past 6 months. There were dozens of emails, chatty, normal stuff, updates about the grandkids, recipes. And then I found it, an email from March, 3 months before I closed on the house. Mija, I'm so excited about your house hunt. Make sure you look for something with at least 4 bedrooms. You'll want the extra space. And check the school district ratings, very important for resale value. 4 bedrooms, school districts. I kept digging. A text from my mom in April. Did your realtor show you that house on Maple Street? The one with the big backyard? Perfect for kids. Another email in May. Have you made an offer on anything yet? Sara mentioned her lease is up in August. Would be nice if you were settled in by then. How had I not seen it? How had I been so blind? I pulled up my text thread with Sara, scrolled back to May. There. Sara. Mom said you're close to closing on a place. Can't wait to see it. The kids are so excited to be closer to Aunt Gabby. Me. Yeah, hopefully closing in July. It's going to be so nice to have my own space finally. Sara. Totally. And we'll basically be neighbors. Mom told me you were looking in our area. I stared at that text. We'll basically be neighbors. Except I wasn't looking in their area. I'd specifically looked in a different part of town, closer to my office. But my mom had told Sara we'd be neighbors, because my mom assumed, no, planned, for them to move in with me. I grabbed my laptop and opened Facebook, navigating to Sara's page, even though I knew it would just make me angrier. I scrolled back through her posts. May 23rd. Counting down the days until our next chapter. Big changes coming soon. June 15th. Sometimes the best blessings come from family. So grateful. She'd been posting about it, vague booking about moving in with me for months. And I'd had no idea. I called Valentina back. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. They've been planning this for at least 6 months, I said as soon as she answered. My mom was asking about bedrooms and school districts back in March. Sara's been posting about it on Facebook. They told my whole family I was buying a house for us. Jesus, Gabby. Everyone knew except me. I was the only one who didn't know this was the plan. Did you agree to any of this at any point? No, I never said they could move in. I never even implied it. My mom would ask questions and I'd answer them, but I thought she was just being interested in my life. She was gathering intel. Valentina said darkly. I felt like I was going to throw up. My own mother had manipulated me, had asked me questions designed to assess whether my house would be suitable for Sara's family, all while pretending to just be a supportive mom interested in her daughter's big purchase. They hadn't seen me as an adult making my own choice. They'd seen me as a resource, a solution to Sara's housing problem. I spent the rest of the night going through old texts and emails, documenting everything. I took screenshots. I made notes of dates. I felt like a detective investigating my own family, and every new piece of evidence made me feel worse. At one point, I found a text from my mom to me from June. Make sure your closing date is before August 1st. Important. August 1st. The day Sara's lease ended, I wanted to scream. I wanted to call my mother and demand to know how she could do this to me. But I also knew, deep in my gut, that she wouldn't see it as wrong. In her mind, this was what family did. You sacrificed. You made room. You gave up your own needs for the collective good. And I'd broken the rules by saying no. Around midnight, I got a text from my cousin Miguel. Hey, your mom called my mom. She's really upset. What happened? I stared at the text for a long time. Then I typed back, did she tell you she tried to move Sara's entire family into my house without asking me first? The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, wait, what? Yeah. She said you refused to help Sara when she needed it. She's rewriting the story, I said out loud to my empty house. She's making me the villain. Miguel's response came a minute later. That's messed up. I'm sorry, Gabi. At least someone believed me. I set my phone down and looked at my house key, the old one from my first apartment, attached to my current keychain. I'd kept it as a reminder of where I'd come from, of how hard I'd worked. But now it meant something else. It meant I'd survived on my own before. I could do it again, even if it meant losing my family in the process. I spent the next 2 weeks collecting evidence like I was building a legal case. Every morning before work, I'd go through old texts and emails. Every night, I'd add to my documentation. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Family Timeline and organized everything chronologically. The first smoking gun was an email from my mom dated March 15th, 3 months before I even made an offer on my house. The subject line was, Exciting News. Gabriela, I talked to a realtor friend today about the market in your area. She says families are looking for homes with at least 4 bedrooms and good school districts. I mentioned you were looking and she had some great suggestions. Want me to send you her number? I'd responded, Thanks, Mom, but I already have a realtor, and I'm only looking at 3-bedroom places. That's all I need for myself. Her reply, Oh, you never know. Better to have extra space. You might want to host family gatherings. At the time, I'd thought she was just being a typical mom, looking out for me. Now I could see it for what it was, an attempt to steer me toward a house that would accommodate Sara's family. The next email was from April. My mom had forwarded me a Zillow listing with the message, Look at this one, 5 bedrooms, huge yard, great elementary school nearby, perfect. I'd written back, That's way out of my budget, Mom. I'm trying to keep my mortgage under $2,000 a month. She'd responded with a sad face emoji and, Just thought it would be nice to have options. You work so hard. You deserve space to grow. Space to grow. Space for Sara's 3 kids, more like. I found a text exchange from May that made my blood run cold. My mom had written, Have you thought about which bedroom would be the master? You'll want to make sure you pick the biggest one before... The message cut off there. Before what? Before Sara moved in and claimed it? But the most damaging evidence came from something I hadn't expected to find. My cousin Miguel sent me a screenshot on Tuesday night with the message, Thought you should see this. It was from the family group chat, the one I'd been removed from. The screenshot was dated June 20th, 2 weeks before my closing. My mom had written, Great news, everyone! Gabriela closes on her new house July 3rd. It's a beautiful 3-bedroom with a big backyard and it's in an excellent school district. Sara and Antonio will be moving in with her in August, so we'll have the whole family close together again. My Aunt Lorena had responded, That's wonderful! So generous of Gabriela to help out. My grandmother. Such a good girl, our Gabriela. Family first. Uncle Ricardo. Tell Sara congratulations on the new place. 17 people had reacted to that message with hearts and thumbs up. 17 people who'd been told that Sara was moving into my house, and not one of them had questioned it or asked if I'd agreed to it. Because why would they? In our family, you didn't say no. You just did what was expected. I stared at that screenshot for 10 minutes, my hands shaking. My mother had announced to the entire family that Sara was moving in with me, 2 weeks before I even got the keys. She hadn't asked me. She'd just decided, and everyone had celebrated it. I called Valentina. She answered on the first ring. They announced it in the family group chat, I said without preamble. In June. My mom told everyone Sara was moving in with me like it was a done deal. Oh, Gabby. 17 people saw that message. 17 people congratulated Sara on her new place. My place, Val, my house that I saved 7 years to buy. Did anyone question it? No, because that's how our family works. The older generation decides something and everyone else just goes along with it. Valentina was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I looked at my laptop screen, at the folder full of evidence. I don't know yet, but I'm not going to let them rewrite history. I'm not going to be the villain in their story when I know the truth. The next day, I got a call from my Aunt Lorena. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Gabriela, she said, her voice heavy with disappointment. I've been trying to reach you for 2 weeks. I know. I've been busy with the move. Your mother is heartbroken. Your father won't talk about you. And Sara, poor Sara, is beside herself. I closed my eyes. Did my mom tell you what actually happened? She said you refused to help your sister when she needed you most. She said Sara's family is about to be homeless because you chose to be selfish. Homeless? Sara has 2 more weeks on her lease. And I'm sure Mom and Dad would let them stay at their house if they're really that desperate. Lorena's voice sharpened. The house barely has room for your parents. Where would they put 3 children? I don't know, Tia, but that's not my problem to solve. There was a shocked silence. Then, not your problem? She's your sister. And it's my house. Family is supposed to help each other. Did anyone ask me if I wanted to help? The words came out harder than I intended. Did anyone, at any point, actually ask if I was okay with Sara moving in? Lorena hesitated. Your mother said you agreed. I never agreed. I didn't even know about it until they showed up with a moving truck. Another pause. Longer this time. You didn't know? No. I pulled up the screenshots on my laptop. In fact, I have emails and texts proving that my mom was planning this for months without ever telling me. She told the whole family in June that Sara was moving in, 2 weeks before I even got my keys. That can't be right. I have screenshots, Tia, from the family group chat, the one I got kicked out of. Lorena didn't respond immediately. I could hear her breathing, could almost hear the gears turning in her head. Send them to me, she finally said. What? The screenshots, the emails, send them to me. I want to see for myself. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to drag more family members into this, but another part of me, the part that was so tired of being painted as the bad guy, wanted someone to see the truth. Okay, I said. I'll send them. I spent that evening compiling everything into a single document. Every email, every text, every Facebook post. I organized it chronologically and added notes explaining the context. It was 12 pages long by the time I was done. I sent it to Lorena with a simple message. This is what really happened. She called me an hour later. Her voice was different now, quieter. Gabriela, I had no idea. Nobody did, except Mom and Sara. Did your father know? I thought about my dad's reaction when I'd refused, how quickly he'd sided with my mom. Yeah, I think he knew. Lorena sighed, long and heavy. This isn't right, Mija. This isn't how family should work. I know. What are you going to do? I looked around my living room, my furniture in place now, my books on the shelves, my life finally settling into this space that was mine. I don't know yet, but I'm not apologizing. I didn't do anything wrong. No, Lorena said firmly. You didn't. It was the first time anyone in my family had said that to me. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear it until the words made my eyes burn with tears. Thank you, I whispered. I'm going to talk to your mother, Lorena said. She needs to hear this. She won't listen. Maybe not, but she's going to hear it anyway. After we hung up, I felt something shift. Not relief exactly, but a sense that I wasn't completely alone in this anymore. 2 days later, I got an unexpected call from someone I hadn't talked to in months. My old friend from college, Valentina's roommate, whose name was also Gabriela. We called her Gabi too to avoid confusion. She'd moved across the country after graduation, but we'd stayed loosely in touch through social media. I heard what happened, she said. Val told me, I'm so sorry. Thanks. It's been a nightmare. I believe that. Listen, I went through something similar with my family 3 years ago. Different circumstances, but same dynamic. They expected me to sacrifice my life for someone else's problems. And when I said no, I became the villain. What did you do? I cut contact for a year. Best decision I ever made. It gave me space to heal and figure out who I was outside of their expectations. And when I finally reconnected, I had boundaries in place. Real ones. Did they respect them? Some of them did. Some of them didn't. The ones who didn't, I don't talk to anymore. I absorbed that. Doesn't it hurt? Losing family? Yeah, she said softly. It does. But you know what hurt more? Being treated like my only value was what I could do for them. That's not love, Gabby. That's just using someone. Her words settled over me like a blanket. Heavy but warming. Anyway, she continued, I just wanted you to know you're not alone. And you're not crazy for setting boundaries. You're actually really brave. I don't feel brave. Nobody does when they're in the middle of it. But trust me, you are. After that call, I made a decision. I wasn't going to keep quietly absorbing this. I wasn't going to let my family rewrite history and tell everyone I was selfish for refusing to give up my house. If they wanted to go public with their version of events, I'd go public with the truth. I spent the weekend writing everything out, not in anger, but in clarity, the timeline, the evidence, the reality of what had happened versus what my family was telling people. I didn't post it on Facebook, that felt too confrontational. But I did send it to a few key family members, Lorena, Miguel, my other cousin Daniela, who'd always been reasonable, and my uncle Ricardo, people I trusted to at least read it with an open mind. The subject line was simple, what really happened with my house? The response was swift. Miguel called me within an hour. Holy shit, Gabi. I had no idea it was this calculated. Daniela sent a long text. I'm so sorry. This is manipulative and wrong. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Uncle Ricardo's response was shorter but powerful. Your mother owes you an apology. This isn't okay. But Lorena's response was the one that mattered most. She called me Sunday evening, and I could tell she'd been crying. I talked to your mother, she said. I showed her everything you sent me. My heart started pounding. And? She's furious. At me, mostly, for taking your side. She says I don't understand what she was trying to do. What was she trying to do? Keep the family together, help Sara, make sure everyone was taken care of. Lorena paused. She genuinely doesn't understand why you're so upset. In her mind, she was doing what mothers do, taking care of all her children. By lying to me? She doesn't see it as lying. She sees it as planning, arranging things for the good of the family. I laughed bitterly. And what about what's good for me? That's what I asked her, Lorena said quietly. She didn't have an answer. The call ended shortly after that, but something had shifted. The truth was spreading through the family like cracks in ice. People were starting to see the full picture, not just the version my mother had painted. And my mother knew it. On Monday morning, I woke up to an email from my father. The subject line made my stomach clench. Family meeting. Gabriela, this has gone on long enough. We're having a family meeting this Saturday at 2 p.m. at your Uncle Ricardo's restaurant. Everyone will be there. You need to come and we need to resolve this like adults. Your mother and I expect you to apologize to Sara and put this behind us. This is not optional. Dad? I stared at that email for a long time. This is not optional. Like I was still a child who could be ordered around. Like my feelings and my boundaries were less important than their need to sweep this under the rug and pretend everything was fine. I forwarded the email to Valentina. She called me immediately. "Are you going?" she asked. "I don't know. Part of me thinks I should have it out with them once and for all, with witnesses. But another part of me thinks it's just going to be an ambush where everyone gangs up on me. If you go, you need backup." "What do you mean?" "Don't go alone. Bring someone. Me, or Gabby too, or someone who's on your side and can speak up if things get ugly." I considered that. "Would you come with me?" "Absolutely. Let me check if I can get off work." "Yeah, I can switch shifts. I'll be there." Relief flooded through me. I wouldn't be alone. I responded to my father's email with one line. "I'll be there. I'm bringing a friend." His response came an hour later. "This is a family matter." I wrote back, "Then treat me like family instead of a problem to be solved." He didn't respond after that. The days leading up to the meeting felt like waiting for a storm. I kept rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd stay calm, how I'd present my evidence without getting emotional. Valentina and I practiced responses to the accusations I knew were coming. "They're going to say you're selfish," she predicted. "I'll say setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's healthy." "They're going to say Sara needs help. I'll say she can get help, just not by taking over my house without permission. They're going to say you're tearing the family apart. I'll say—" I paused. "I'll say they did that when they lied to me for 6 months." Saturday came too fast. Valentina picked me up at 1:30. I'd dressed carefully, not too casual, not too formal. I wanted to look like an adult, not a daughter being called to account. Uncle Ricardo's restaurant was in the old neighborhood, a Mexican place that had been in our family for 3 generations. The lunch rush was over, so the dining room was empty except for one long table in the back where my family was gathering. My mother saw me first. Her face hardened immediately. My father sat at the head of the table, looking grave. Sara was there with Antonio, looking nervous. Lorena sat off to the side with Miguel, Daniela and her husband, my grandmother, Uncle Ricardo, a few others, 17 people in total. I counted them as I walked to the table, Valentina beside me. "Who is this?" my mother demanded, looking at Valentina. "My friend. She's here for support." "This is a family meeting?" "And she's staying," I said firmly. "Unless you'd rather I leave too?" My father gestured to 2 empty chairs. "Sit down, both of you." We sat. I put my phone on the table in front of me, prepared to record if necessary. I'd already told Valentina. If things got bad, we were documenting it. My father cleared his throat. "We're here because this situation has gotten out of hand. Gabriela, you've hurt your sister deeply. You've disrespected your mother and me. And you've caused division in this family that doesn't need to exist." "I'd like to speak," I said. "Let me finish." "No." My voice was steady. "I came here because you said this was a meeting, not a lecture. If you want to resolve this, then everyone gets to talk, starting with me." There was a shocked silence. I'd never spoken to my father like that before. He looked at my mother, who gave a tight nod. "Fine," he said. "Speak." I pulled out my phone and opened the folder with all my evidence. In March, 6 months before I bought my house, Mom emailed me suggesting I look for a 4-bedroom house in a good school district. At the time, I thought she was just being helpful. I didn't know that Sara's lease was ending in August, or that you were already planning for her family to move in with me. I saw Sara shift uncomfortably. In April, Mom sent me Zillow listings for 5-bedroom houses, saying I'd want space to grow. In May, she asked about which bedroom I'd choose as the master. Quote, "Before something." She never finished that sentence. My mother's jaw tightened. On June 20th, 2 weeks before I closed on my house, Mom posted in the family group chat that Sara would be moving in with me in August. She told everyone it was happening. She got congratulations from 17 people. I looked around the table. Several people looked down at their plates. Nobody asked me. Nobody checked if I'd agreed. Mom just announced it like it was a fact, and everyone accepted it. I pulled up the screenshot Miguel had sent me and turned my phone so everyone could see. This is from the group chat. You can all see the date. Lorena nodded slowly. I've seen it. My mother finally spoke, her voice cold. I was trying to help your sister. She needed somewhere to stay. Then you should have asked me first. My voice rose despite my best efforts to stay calm. You should have said, Gabi, Sarah's lease is ending. Would you be willing to let them stay with you? And I could have said yes or no like an adult. Instead, you made plans behind my back for 6 months and then showed up with a moving truck on my first day in my new house. We're your family, which is exactly why you should have respected me enough to ask. The room was silent. Sara spoke up, her voice small. Mom said you'd want to help. She said you'd be excited to have us there. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She looked tired and overwhelmed, and I felt a pang of sympathy. But sympathy wasn't the same as obligation. Sara, I said gently, did you ever think to text me directly? To ask if I was okay with this? She bit her lip. I thought Mom had already talked to you. But she hadn't. And deep down, you knew that, didn't you? Because if you really thought I'd agreed, you would have been texting me about decorating plans and how to set up the kids' rooms, but you never mentioned any of that, because you knew I didn't actually know. Sara's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I should have checked with you. It was the first actual apology I'd gotten from anyone. Thank you, I said quietly. My mother stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. We raised you to take care of family, to be generous, to put others first, and this is what we get? Accusations? Public humiliation? I'm not trying to humiliate anyone, I said. I'm trying to tell the truth. The truth is that you're selfish. Her voice cracked. You bought a big house and you won't share it. Your sister needed help and you turned your back on her. That's the truth. Lorena stood up too. Sophia, that's not fair. You stay out of this, my mother snapped. No. Lorena's voice was firm. I won't stay out of it because you asked me to call Gabriela and guilt her into apologizing, and when I looked at the evidence, I saw that you were the one who lied. You manipulated this situation from the beginning. My mother's face went white with rage. How dare you? I dare because someone needs to say it. Lorena looked around the table. Sophia told us all that Gabriela had agreed to let Sara move in. She made it sound like it was Gabriela's idea. But it wasn't. Gabriela had no idea any of this was planned. That's not, my mother started. I've seen the screenshots, Uncle Ricardo said quietly. Lorena showed me. Sophia, you need to be honest about what happened. My father finally spoke, and his voice was tired. Sophia, did you ask Gabriela before telling everyone Sara was moving in? The question hung in the air. My mother's mouth opened and closed. Finally, she said, I knew she'd say yes if I asked, so I just made arrangements. But I didn't say yes, I said. And that's the whole point. You assumed. You planned my life without involving me because you thought you knew what I'd agree to. Because that's what family does, my mother insisted. We help each other. We make sacrifices. I've made plenty of sacrifices, I said, and my voice finally broke. I babysat for Sara every weekend when I was in college instead of having a social life. I loaned Dad money for the restaurant renovation that I never got back. I worked double shifts so I could help pay for Abuela's medical bills. I've been helping this family my entire adult life. I stood up shaking. But my house? That's where I draw the line. I worked 7 years for that house. I ate ramen and drove a car that barely ran and said no to every single thing I wanted because I was saving every penny. That house is mine, and I get to decide who lives in it. So you'd rather Sara be homeless? Sara is not homeless. I was yelling now, and I didn't care. She has parents. She has a husband with a job. She has options. She just doesn't have my house, and that's apparently unforgivable. My grandmother spoke for the first time, her voice papery but firm. Sophia, you were wrong. Everyone turned to look at her. You should have asked, Abuela continued. Gabriela is not a child. She's a grown woman. You should have asked her. My mother looked like she'd been slapped. My father rubbed his face with both hands. This is... He trailed off. Sophia, we need to talk, privately. No, my mother said. No, I'm not backing down on this. But my father was already standing. Yes, you are, because Lorena is right, Ricardo is right, and your mother is right. You were wrong. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. Gabriela, I'm sorry. I should have questioned this from the beginning. I shouldn't have assumed you'd agreed. It wasn't a full apology. It didn't fix anything, but it was something. Thank you, I said quietly. My mother was crying now, angry tears streaming down her face. So I'm the villain, after everything I've done for this family? No one's saying you're a villain, Lorena said gently. But you made a mistake, and you need to apologize to your daughter. My mother looked at me, and for a moment I thought she might actually do it. But then her face hardened. No, I won't apologize for trying to keep this family together. She grabbed her purse and walked out. The restaurant fell silent. We could hear her car start in the parking lot, then drive away. My father looked exhausted. I'll talk to her. Dad, I said softly. I'm not apologizing. I'm not changing my mind. Sara can't move in. He nodded slowly. I know. I understand. Sara was crying quietly. Antonio had his arm around her. She looked up at me. I really am sorry, Gabi. I should have asked you myself. I know, I said. And I'm sorry you're in a tough spot, but I can't be the solution. I know, she wiped her eyes. We'll figure something out. Valentina squeezed my hand under the table. The meeting broke up slowly after that. Some people hugged me, some avoided eye contact. But the energy had shifted, the truth was out, and most of my family had heard it. As Valentina and I walked to her car, I felt strange. Not happy exactly, but lighter, like I'd been carrying something heavy and had finally set it down. You did it, Valentina said. Yeah, I said. I guess I did. We drove back to my house, my beautiful, empty, peaceful house that was all mine. 3 months later, I stood in my living room and surveyed the scene. The house was full of people, but these were people I'd chosen. Valentina, Gabi too, who'd flown in from California, my co-workers from the marketing firm, my college roommate, Miguel and his girlfriend, Daniela and her husband, Lorena and Uncle Ricardo. People who respected me. People who celebrated my boundaries instead of resenting them. It was my official housewarming party, and it was perfect. I'd cut contact with my mother entirely. We hadn't spoken since the restaurant meeting. My father called occasionally, brief conversations where we talked around the elephant in the room. Sara and I had texted a few times, civil but distant. She'd found a smaller apartment and moved in with Antonio's brother temporarily while they saved for their own place. It wasn't ideal, but it was working, and I was okay. Better than okay, actually. I'd taken that old apartment key, the one I'd kept as a reminder of where I'd come from, and put it in a small shadow box frame with a label underneath. Earned, not given. I'd hung it by the front door where I could see it every time I came home. It reminded me of the truth. I'd worked for this. I'd sacrificed for this. And I had every right to protect it. Lorena came over with a glass of wine. This is a beautiful home, mija. I'm proud of you. Thank you for standing up for me, I said. At the restaurant. It meant everything. You stood up for yourself. I just backed you up. She clinked her glass against mine. That's what real family does. Later, as the party wound down and people started leaving, I stood on my back porch and looked at my yard. My space. My peace. I thought about my mother's email from months ago, the one where she'd said they'd failed as parents because I'd turned out selfish. For a long time, those words had haunted me, made me question if I was actually a bad person for saying no. But I understood now. I wasn't selfish. I was just no longer willing to erase myself to make other people comfortable. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. I'd been thinking about this for weeks, and tonight felt like the right time to finally write it down. To anyone who's ever been called selfish for having boundaries, I bought my first house at 32. I saved for 7 years. I worked 2 jobs. I did it alone, and I was proud. My parents tried to move my sister's family into it without asking me. When I said no, they called me selfish. They told the whole family I was heartless. They made me the villain for protecting something I'd earned. For a while, I believed them. I thought maybe I was selfish. Maybe I was supposed to give up my dream for someone else's need. But here's what I learned. Selfishness is taking something that doesn't belong to you. Boundaries are protecting something that does. My house belonged to me, my space, my peace, my 7 years of sacrifice, all mine. And I had every right to say who could and couldn't live in it. If that makes me selfish, then I guess I'm finally okay with that. Because I've learned that selflessness without boundaries isn't love, it's just self-erasure. And I'm done erasing myself. I saved the note but didn't post it anywhere. I didn't need to. The words were for me, a reminder of what I'd learned and how far I'd come. Valentina appeared beside me. "You good?" "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I'm really good." Good, because we're doing karaoke next and Gabby too is already queuing up Destiny's Child. I laughed and followed her inside, back to the warmth and noise of people who actually cared about me, back to my house, my space, my life that I'd fought for and won. The old apartment key hung by the door, catching the light, a reminder of who I used to be and who I'd become, someone who'd finally learned to say no. Someone who'd finally learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. Someone who'd finally learned that the people who truly love you won't ask you to destroy yourself to prove it. I looked around my living room one more time, at the laughter, the music, the life happening in this space I'd earned, and I smiled. This was my home, mine alone, and that was exactly how it should be. If you've ever been told you're selfish for protecting your peace, drop a comment. I see you. I believe you. And you're not alone. And if this story reminded you that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors, and you hold the key, then subscribe because I share more stories like this every week. You're not selfish for protecting what you've earned. You're not cruel for saying no. You're not wrong for choosing yourself. You're just finally free.